Hello, boys and girls. As you can see, my backup apocalypse mask arrived in the mail today, as I have been told by some people who know nothing about apocalypse fashion that my other gas mask might be a little too intimidating or excessive or whatever. So, I got something else here. Makes me feel like a ninja, so hence the flashy opening. But as you can see, it has multiple uses, so it can come down like this, go up. This part can come down, which is, in most situations, is probably what I'll use it for, like that, or just come down all the way. But, yeah, it has multiple uses, and so I'm very pleased. And it's quite appropriate for some of the things that came today. You know, because some of them are a bit martial arts themed, or one of them is in particular. Because all of my Criterion sale selections, all of them are now here. And how appropriate then to, you know, dress in the apparel of a martial artist than to talk about the greatest martial artist of all time, Bruce Lee. Well, how about that? I just thought it was appropriate, even though ninjas are distinctly Japanese and not Chinese. But at any rate, yeah, Bruce Lee, this is the big collection of his films. The Big Boss, Fist of Fury, Way of the Dragon, Game of Death, and then Enter the Dragon, which, if you remember one of James Rolfe's early You Know What's Bullshit episodes about DVDs, like he talks about how at that time, just the DVD set for Bruce Lee, they didn't have Enter the Dragon because it was owned by Warner Brothers, and I guess they weren't willing to share the riches or whatever with the other ones, and so it didn't have it on it. But now, thanks to the Criterion Collection, all of his films are together, like all of his big martial arts films are all together, so with this awesome artwork here. Look how cool that is. And we've got the Big Boss. Oh yeah, I see what we got. We've got yep, we got all 5 movies here. The Big Boss, Fist of Fury, The Way of the Dragon, Enter the Dragon, Game of Death, and then supplements. And you know, I haven't dived into this fully because I think that there's a lot to these things, because I know that, like, in the US that, you know, they got retitled, and this is like, it's like kind of a poster, but not really, because there's booklet inside with all kinds of cool things. You could probably use this as a poster if you wanted, but it's not really, it's not like the Night of the Living Dead one, which is like specifically designed for poster usage. But nonetheless, like, it's really cool, especially if you're a fan of martial arts or you're a fan of Bruce Lee, then definitely worth the pickup. I got it because it was half price, and you know, normally this is really expensive, so I got it for like $62, and it's like, well, hey, why not, you know, because I've been wanting to dive into more martial arts, and where best to start than with Bruce Lee. So yeah, I mean, that's like the big ticket item from the sale, but got some other great choices here. Some of these you've seen before, but most of them you haven't, and some of these I've opened already, and some of them I haven't, so we're just gonna dive into them. And I wanted to present all of the Criterion selections that I got all back to back. But anyway, so we got The Circus, a Charlie Chaplin film that I have now, thanks to getting this. I now have all of the Charlie Chaplin films that the Criterion Collection has released, and they've been doing a really good job with putting them out. Like, they put out my favorite film of all time, City Lights. They put out The Kid, The Gold Rush, Modern Times, Monsieur Verdoux, Limelight, and now The Circus, which is really cool. And eager to dive in and check this out because I'm such a huge Charlie Chaplin fan. I regret that I've not seen all of his filmography, which admittedly is kind of hard to do because, well, it's a pretty extensive filmography. Not just with films, but with shorts and, all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, it'll take some doing, I'm sure. Plus, watching the movie Chaplin with Robert Downey Jr. as Charlie Chaplin, which I've not done yet, but I've heard really good things. So, yeah, I got The Circus there. We got Do the Right Thing. Probably, I have not seen BlacKkKlansman yet, but out of all the Spike Lee films I've seen, this is easily his best, and hands down, it's one of the most intelligent films I think that's ever been made about race relations, if not the most intelligent, because there's so many different layers of depth and meaning. Great booklet here, the 40 Acres and a Mule logo there. So many layers of depth, such a great script, such a multi-layered script with good arguments for both sides, and also just a rich tapestry of characters, plus a lot of tension that erupts all on this hot summer day in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. But yeah, it's like, I think honestly, like, this was very, very relevant for 1989, but I would argue that it's probably even more relevant today, because we're talking about all these different prevailing social inequalities and social grievances and, racial inequalities and things like that. And this is a film that really, I think, examines all different angles of this thing, all extremely, extremely well, with amazing acting all across the board. I mean, if you haven't seen it, you got to do it, because it's just probably the best film I've ever seen about racial issues. And I think we already looked at this before, but just to show it off again for someone who didn't see, the last one was Ghost World. Amazing Terry Zwigoff film. Thora Birch, Scarlett Johansson, Steve Buscemi. How can you go wrong? Now, one that you haven't seen, I don't think, is A Hard Day's Night, which is it was the Beatles' first film where they play themselves, but it was a film that pioneered the form of the music video as we know it today, and it was directed by Richard Lester, who would later go on to do The Knack and How to Get It, Superman 2, Superman 3. He did some Three Musketeers films with the Salkinds, so, he had his own great, film career, but this really did, it does a good job of making fun of Beatlemania, which was, there was mania, all right, at the time. This was 1964, so Beatlemania was in full swing in London, in swinging London in the UK and in the United States, especially like when they came over to America for their tours, back when they still toured. And it's an exceptionally funny film. The Beatles do a great job of making fun of themselves. The script is extremely witty, and it's like you kind of get the sense that they're all making fun of their own personas, public and private, and it just it makes you remember like when musicians could have like star vehicles and could be really good actors. Not to say that you still don't have those today, because I mean Lady Gaga did amazing in A Star Is Born and in other things she's acted in, but this was like explicitly about the Beatles. And I mean, really, could you ask for a better Beatles movie? I don't think you could. I mean, I don't know, it hits all the right notes, and of course, no pun intended, hits all the right notes, and it's just, obviously, you got the Beatles music, you got the title theme, it's like, what more could you want? Got some tea here, which is fabulous, and, oh gee, look at that. But yeah, what more could you ask for, really? I mean, the only thing I could think of is if they made a movie based on the White Album, but how would you do that? The whole point of the album is that it's so varied, and it has no, like, centralized thing about it, and that's what I love about it, is that it's everything all in one. But anyway, next movie up, I have not opened this yet, but it's Häxan. And this film is it's a weird one, because it's a Swedish film from 1922, and it's like a horror documentary, or a documentary with some horror recreations or whatever. And so it's like, well, where do you put this? And this is why I'm so glad I'm not doing genres anymore in my organization, because if I had to organize it by genre, this is one of those movies that would just drive me batshit insane. Because I know that, this film is it is predominantly a documentary about witchcraft and in the Middle Ages, and it makes the point, which I think wasn't in as wide a circulation at the time that this came out in 1922. It wasn't in as wide a circulation in the public consciousness that most historical instances of witchcraft can be attributed to mental illness or to, any number of things besides actual witchcraft. But it does also provide some really, really freaky kind of enactments of what witchcraft is supposed to entail, or specifically black magic and that sort of thing. It was pretty shocking for its time. It could only have come from a place like Sweden. It was pretty controversial when it came over here, and I don't even think it was shown in its entirety over here for a long time. And actually, because it entered the public domain and relatively quickly, and footage from it was used in all kinds of other films. Same with L'Inferno, the Italian adaptation of Dante's Inferno. Those movies both were used, the footage from them were used in a lot of other films, because, well, they could. But this film, I think, we wouldn't have Robert Eggers' The Witch without it. And I mean, look at that cover. That's creepy as hell. And I've seen, if you've seen like the devil in this film, one of the scariest movie devils of all time. But yeah, I mean, it just goes to show that silent films, like my favorite era for film, that they can have just as much, if not more, power over the viewer because of just how hypnotic they can be and how they had to do a lot with a little. And now we did see this one already, but Heaven's Gate, or no, we didn't, did we? Heaven's Gate, the Michael Cimino, the big Western that he did in 1980, where there were so many cost overruns, and his ego was, Michael Cimino's ego was kind of running away with him, and the financial and the critical failure of this film really did kill his career for a good long time. And well, he still did other movies, but like it hurt his credibility quite a lot after having won Best Director for The Deer Hunter. The previous, in his previous film was The Deer Hunter, and then this one was so critically lambasted because of, I guess it was criticized for being overly long and dull, and I don't know, but there are different cuts of the film, and apparently that original cut that most people saw at the time, apparently it was a horrific travesty against what his vision for the film was, because this cut is his restored cut, his director's cut, and apparently this edition of it has gone on to receive quite a lot of praise. So I feel good for him that he won't be able to get those lost years back, but at the same time I think he'll get vindication now for his vision that never really got realized, and that's why it's so important for directors to have their vision in some capacity. And we did look at this one, I know. Actually, I'm a little out of order here. Here's one, Midnight Cowboy, one of my favorite films of all time, with Jon Voight, Dustin Hoffman, and it's a John Schlesinger film, which I don't know at all what else he did, but it's about a guy from Texas, a cowboy basically, who goes to the big city of New York, and it ends up becoming a male prostitute, a gigolo, and it's kind of about him being a fish out of water, but also his experiences with is his name Rizzo? Because I believe that, Ratzo, sorry. Enrico Ratzo Rizzo is Dustin Hoffman's name, and who's basically his pimp, and kind of the friendship that arises from them. This was the only film rated X that ever won Best Picture, and the X-rated nominees for Best Picture, that was already a very select group. This is the only one that ever won, and well deserved because it's an amazing film. It has since been re-rated R, but yeah, it's got Everybody's Talking by Harry Nilsson, which is an amazing song. And yeah, it's got the famous "I'm walking here," like that was not planned. Yeah, it's just, I could go on and on about how much I love this movie. I have not seen it in such a long time though, because I really want to rewatch it. But I've been meaning to have it in the collection, and there it is. Yeah, this is the one we talked about already, The Night Porter. I started watching this, and I already love what I'm seeing of it. I need to finish it, but yeah, very kind of controversial S&M Nazi themed film. But already what I've seen of it, I really love. And then this one I know we talked about because I had a hard time getting the slipcase back on. Well, another favorite film of mine, Sex, Lies, and Videotape. Really want to rewatch this film soon because I remembered adoring it when I saw it back in college, and it's something that I think not a lot of people are willing to make a film like this anymore. Not that they ever were back then. Got a couple more here. Some Like It Hot, considered by the American Film Institute to be the funniest American film of all time, and it's certainly up there. If not number one, it's certainly up there, that's for sure. It's got Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon, Marilyn Monroe, directed by Billy Wilder, one of his best films by far. It was for its time, it was a pretty edgy comedy. Basically, two musicians that witnessed the St. Valentine's Day massacre right before the Great Depression starts in Chicago. They have to basically, they're only train out of town, and as a disguise measure, the way that they get out of Chicago is by dressing up as female musicians for a band that is going to Florida, to coastal Florida, and so it had the cross-dressing aspects of it back in 1959, and it's got Marilyn Monroe is like your classic sex symbol, and so yeah, in the humor there's a ton of double entendres. There's a ton of humor that I think would have been considered very risque for the time, and still holds up today as an exceptionally funny film. Great script, very quotable. Yeah, can't say enough good things about it. But yeah, especially for 1959, it was pretty out there. And then last for the Criterions, Straw Dogs. One of my... I love Sam Peckinpah, and I'm sorry to say I haven't seen much of his filmography, but I'm such a huge fan of The Wild Bunch, and this is another one of his that's so widely regarded that I really wanted to check it out. This looks a lot like the poster for Mother, doesn't it? With Jennifer Lawrence, I just realized that. But yeah, this is another film that I remembered was super controversial in 1971, extremely violent and disturbing for its time. Another Dustin Hoffman film. Yeah, I mean, I like films that push the envelope, as you can tell. I like films that, whatever genre they are, they could even be a comedy or whatever, but I like films that really are daring, and they go where no film had gone before at that time. And most of these that I got, trying to see, yeah, most of these, if not all of them, to some degree, they did that, to whatever extent. But yeah, they all did something different relative to their time. And then only got one more. It's not a Criterion, but it did come in the mail, which is The Taking of Deborah Logan, which I know a lot of people who actually worked on this movie in front of or behind the camera, because they filmed it in the Charlotte area. So it's pretty cool. It's a good found footage film, kind of a different take on possession, but also on like old age and dementia, and how we look at the elderly and that kind of stuff. So definitely worth it. But yeah, that's all of the Criterions that came thanks as part of the sale. So hopefully you guys got some cool things too if you were aware of the sale. I mean, technically it's still going on. I think it ends August 2nd or something, but yeah, it was a great sale for me. I hadn't bought Criterions in a while, and part of it is the expense, but also I just, I felt like, especially for the Bruce Lee set, I felt like it was a good time to jump on that because of the lower cost. So, yeah, let me know what you got, if you got anything, and if you like this, then please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon, set phasers to stun, warp factor 5. I will see you in the next video, and stay in the shadows, my fellow ninja friends. Protect others with your mask, but look cool while you do it. I will see you soon. Oh.